if nothing is done to stop the toxic Silicon Valley companies like Google and Facebook, what will the world be like in 5 years or 20 years? I think this is a speculation about what life would be. So you're a white male, say in the US or Western Europe. You're applying for a job. You just left university. Step one, all of anything you've ever said online, in private forums, public forums, Facebook, Twitter, whatever platforms exist, that will all be scanned, and you'll be given a bigotry score based on whether you've ever made any jokes or had any impure thoughts about anything that isn't agreed with by the diversity department of the government, and the diversity department within these companies, which is now the biggest department in their companies. You'll go through a series of interviews to test your conformity to the party, the anti-racism party, which is dominating society, and the anti-racism within these companies. And you'll be given a score, and this score will often mean you can't get a job, because as a white male, most jobs aren't open to you. The only people who are exempt from this test are, of course, black women, and to a lesser extent, people below them in the intersectional stack. Many of these people don't have to be tested at all; they're just given the job. But you will be checked deeply, and then you'll have a series of interviews where you'll be asked a large number of questions. Your facial expressions will be monitored, and at this time we will have simple mind reading techniques where if with machines, where if you think the wrong thought, if you think something that could be interpreted as racist, or if you look at a woman's breasts when she has her tits out in the interview, you will not only be exempted from the job, you'll be reported to the police, and you'll have to spend some time in prison for looking at the tits that she has on display to you. On the public transport on the way home, your face will be monitored, both by your own device and by all of the cameras around. If your face, again, if you look at the tits of any women who put their tits on display in public, again, you'll be fined. If you have any facial expressions towards black women or non-white women generally that are considered in any way aggressive, again, you'll be fined and given points on your acceptable behaviour total. Of course, once your acceptable behaviour total goes over 100 points, you are again sent to a re-education centre where you receive unconscious bias and other training to make sure you understand diversity. You are shown videos for 12 hours a day, given very simple food and a hard exercise regime. As a white male, you will spend at least 50% of your life in these camps being re-educated. Your day started by saying the commandments of diversity. And these commandments are different based on whether, where you are in the intersectional stack. As a Dalit, as an untouchable in the caste system that now exists, as a white male, you have 60 minutes of a self-punishment to come, just to undo all the evil white men did in the world. Of course, white men have never contributed anything to the world except pain and suffering. Black women created all the technology. Black women have done everything that's good with some small help from other non-white women. At this point, you will get out the belt that all white boys are given when they're born. You use this belt to whip yourself on the back as you're saying your commandments. I'm an evil white man. I'm broken. I must be fixed. While you do this, this is constantly monitored by AI every morning. While you do this, if any of your facial expressions show contempt, anger, or in any way not following this regime, again, you'll get more points on your license. Many men, as they have something in their system called testosterone, Many men spend their entire life in correctional facilities designed to re-educate them and explain to them why they're evil, why they're responsible for all the crimes of white men, and to learn how black women came up with all the inventions we have: the internet, black woman; jet engines, black women; Shakespeare was indeed a black woman. As we know from the musical Hamilton, all the US founding fathers were black men. Despite slavery existing then, it's quite impressive. Everything good that ever happened was done by a black woman, and everything bad that ever happened was done by a white man. You understand this. This is what all of the history books say. This is, if you search Facebook or Google, it tells you quite clearly that the founding fathers of the US were black, and that white people were there just to ruin everything. The Constitution was written by a black woman. Again, you need re-educating because genetically you're inherently evil as a white man. You need to learn that you're a Dalit. You're in the Dalit class. You're the untouchable class in the caste system. You're at the bottom, and you need to be at the bottom. So you've been on 100 job interviews, and you spent 4 years in correctional facilities now, but you finally get a job. You studied software engineering at university. You're a very good programmer, and you managed to get a job with Google, which is amazing. So you go into the office. Now, of course, as the Dalit untouchable class, scum, white males, you're in the basement. All your tables are close together. You're segregated from the deserving people, the non-white males, the blacks, etc., who are upstairs. As a non-white male, you need to, as a white male rather, you need to start at the bottom. You start scrubbing floors. Occasionally, you may be asked to write some code after you finish scrubbing the floors and polishing the shoes of the black women. But if you play your cards right, one day you may be actually allowed to do some coding. You do this again for 5 years. The problem is when you enter the building one day, you accidentally make eye contact with the CEO, who's another black woman. She says that you are projecting your white male power over her, and as a result, you get sent to have 50 lashings. Now, of course, corporal punishment is only required for evil white men, because only white men have the genetic evil as well as the historical evil within them that needs to be punished with violence, because they invented violence. Now they need to have it put back on them. As we know, no Asian or black person has ever committed any violence. This is all myths from history. Gun crime in history in the US, that was all white men killing everyone else. No one except a white man has ever committed murder in the US, especially not black men. It's only white men. So again, you while you're having your 500 lashings, you will be asked to recite the truth as we know it. The truth is men can have babies and men can get periods, which is what Google's already saying today, so this future's not that far off. Also, white men are inherently lazy and useless people, so of course you start on a below minimum wage. There is no minimum wage for white men. Minimum wage only exists for other groups, of course. So you start on a below minimum wage job, and of course, because you're useless, you have to work 12 hours a day, and the black women doing the real work upstairs, like HR, they only have to work 3 hours a day. Now, it is unfortunate that, again, because of the patriarchy, almost all the coding that's required to make Google run is done by white and Asian men. But this is, this is because of evil society. It's got nothing to do with being able to do that job. I mean, black women could do this job, and white women and other women, they could all easily do this job. But they need to do the real work, such as HR and PR and admin. The important work that it's the reason why Google and Facebook exist. Then you get home and one night the police knock at your door at 2 a.m. It turns out that you made a post on Twitter 7 years ago, and for some reason the AI missed it first time. But this post says that the black woman president that was in power then, of course all presidents from here forward must be black women, because as we know they're superior and don't possess the evil that white men have had up to this point. You said she's only the second best president we could have. The best president is a disabled black woman. Well, it turns out that as a white male, you're not allowed to judge what it means to be disabled. And although technically you're right, the anger and aggression that was the undertone of anger and aggression that was in what you said, and also your facial expression was captured at the time, which probably shows a little bit of anger. When we take all of these together, the AI does see that you may have had an inappropriate thought 7 years ago at this moment. So you will again be sent to a correctional facility. But this time, because you've already been to many correctional facilities, this correctional facility will be in the Arctic, and you'll be breaking stones, which are taken there. You'll be breaking stones in the Arctic for 2 years. And of course, beaten daily, because as we know, you're a useless white man. I could go on with this. This may seem far-fetched, but it really isn't. We've come to kind of sensible in the 90s and to some extent the noughties, to fucking insane today about race. Fucking insane. Companies are doing unconscious bias training. It's bullshit. We know it's bullshit, but if anyone questions it, for example, James Damore, when they ask for feedback, he's fired for saying stuff that is objectively true. That was a few years ago. We're in this now. That's where we're going. And white men are already implicitly the scum of society. The fucking dog shit on your shoe if you're a white man. That's what you are. In the West, the society that you built, that's what you are now. You're scum. That's what you are now. This is only going to get worse unless we stand up. So it's time to do your bit. If you're in tech, blow the whistle. If 30% of people in Facebook, 30% of developers in Facebook stand up and say this is bullshit, they're not going to fire all of you. And if they do, they'll die. Same with Google. A big chunk of the staff at both these companies know this is racist, sexist bullshit. And it must end. And it takes people to actually do something to end it. Because if we don't, this is the kind of hell that we end up in. We literally end up with a caste system, which is already in place now, where if you're a white male, or an Asian male maybe at Google, you don't get to speak. You're actually told not to speak, to sit at the back and listen to the mystic black woman as if she fucking knows anything because she's a black woman. That's ridiculous. Like, as if you would know something because you're a white man. It's bullshit. That's not meritocracy. We need meritocracy. So this has to be stopped now. The toxicness of Silicon Valley, the toxic bullshit that is embedded in Silicon Valley needs to be destroyed by legal means, of course, destroyed through argument. And that can only happen, if you want to avoid this nightmare future, that can only happen by a large number of people there standing up and calling bullshit when they see it. If you're in a position to do this, grow a pair and do it. And if you're not a white male or an Asian male, if you're a black woman or something else, and you can see how much bullshit this is, because it clearly is, it would have even more power coming from you. So it would be even better if you could do it. But no, the society was on a very good path. It's now heading towards a cliff, and it's going to take some people to fix this. If you're one of those people, you really could be doing something to help the world and help the future of humanity.